Once upon a time, Umbro wasn't just a relevant football boot brand, but a desirable one. I can remember back being 8, 9, 10 years old and actually wanting a pair of Umbro football boots over Nike, Adidas, or Puma. Fast forward to 2021, and that is not exactly the case anymore. Umbro is one of those brands that people almost don't even know exists anymore, but they are still putting out new boots, and I have the latest one for you here today in pink and black. The Umbro Velocita 6 Pro, the latest speed boot from the brand, which bears a retail price of 180 pounds, which converts to 250 US dollars, which is, quite frankly, way too much money for these. And I understand that Umbro has history in the football boot industry. They've been around for a long time now, but I also understand that it's very difficult to maintain any kind of relevance in football boots when you're a brand outside of Nike, Adidas, or Puma, which is why it surprises me, given how many examples we have of great football boots from smaller brands failing because of the pricing structure that they've chosen to go with, that Umbro, which at this point is a relatively small brand, thinks that they can charge the same amount of money as the Nike Mercurial Vapor 14 Elite for their speed boot, because even if this was a 10 out of 10 amazing product, it would still have a very difficult time selling just based on the fact that it's from Umbro, and Umbro, I hate to do this to you, but this is not a 10 out of 10 amazing football boot. So with that in mind, I want to do a complete tech breakdown of the Velocita 6 Pro, talk about what's good, talk about what's not so good, take a look at the boots on feet, and ultimately determine whether or not these are even close to being worth the asking price that Umbro thinks that these warrant. If you're interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire review. And if you are by chance interested in a pair for yourself, this is another issue with Umbro football boots at the moment. They aren't exactly available anywhere. So there will not be a link to buy them, but when and if they become available, there will be a link down below in the description to the review page on my website, where hopefully we'll have some SR4U coupon codes and you'll be able to pick them up for a little bit less than normal. As always, if you guys do end up enjoying the video and want to see more reviews of football boots from smaller brands like Umbro, don't forget to support this one with a like. That lets me know that you want to see more. And I've also noticed that a lot of you guys who watch these videos aren't actually subscribed to the channel. If that's you, it would mean a lot to me if you could hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. So first things first, the upper is distinctively different than basically any other top-end football boot that you can buy right now. And if you look really closely, you can see it has somewhat of a textile top layer to it, but the material of this knit is actually almost like a plastic. So if I run my nail along it, you can clearly hear how slippery it actually is. And that's really what makes this boot feel so much different than anything else on the market right now, is there is literally no extra grip on the ball. In fact, it feels slick against the surface of the upper, which you might love or you might hate. It's a very interesting direction for Umbro to go into, but one that I think most people are probably not gonna be into. And if I had to compare this upper to something else from the past, it's very reminiscent of the plastic mesh material that we used to see on the Adidas Nitro Charge series, where that material was actually utilized towards the rear of the boot as a protection, durability, as well as structure element. And admittedly, this does feel great in terms of structure. It feels like it's gonna be relatively durable as well. It's just in regards to touch on the ball, I don't think it's the most amazing thing in the world. As for the tech side of the upper, it's what they're calling Vent Knit Adaptive Fit technology in combination with a bonded V frame, where you can see all of these Vs running through the midfoot and forefoot area on both the lateral and medial side. That's adding your structure. And you can see on the underside of this upper, you're going to find what is basically a knitted material in black with little perforations in pink, which are basically holes. And because this is more of an open mesh material, there's supposed to be some airflow and some breathability to this upper. But if you look internally, the holes are extremely small. It's kind of dark in there. It's difficult for me to show you guys. And there's also a solid liner through the forefoot area and toe box. So there's really no air that you can feel passing through this upper. And then of course it's left as a knitted material across the top of the foot, giving it this one-piece enclosure. All in all, the touch on the ball is relatively thin, but the upper itself does end up with this kind of plasticky sensation because of that fuse as well as this plastic mesh on the surface. But again, the main takeaway here in terms of how this is going to feel on the ball, that's different from any other football boot is how slippery it is on the surface. You're gonna find a central lacing system with the one-piece enclosure. Something that I do like is kind of the density of the lacing system, where you can see the lacing positions are relatively close together, which means that when you tie the laces tight, everything feels super secure. My one gripe with this though is it feels like the top lace hole is a little bit too low. It should be a little bit higher. It would just make the boot feel like it's wrapping your foot that much tighter around the opening of the football boot. Not to say that it's bad the way that it is, but I personally would have liked to have seen the lacing system go up a little bit higher than it does. You of course have that elasticated knit material filling in the area underneath the laces, and that extends into the low cut area of the boot around the heel, where you kind of have this mock collar. A lot of brands are doing this type of design, but the boot definitely does fit and feel like a low cut one. Then moving to the heel area, you are of course going to find the external heel counter, which is relatively small, but there's also an internal heel counter. This back part is hard and structured. Internally, you're gonna find a microfiber lining material, and then it has these little silicone grip dots, which do a really good job of gripping your socks and your heel, helping to lock it in place, but there's really not a lot of padding to it, and because you have this hard internal plastic structure here for the heel counter, what I really noticed when I put these on is that they really feel hard against the back of your heel. Not to the point where they're super uncomfortable, but they definitely don't feel the most comfortable, especially considering the price that they're asking for these. And I think that's something that a brand like Umbro really needs to get right. Out of the box comfort for me is just not the greatest with this boot. But of course, everyone's got a different shape heel, everyone's got a different shape foot, so your mileage may vary. For my heel in particular, I did not find these to be the most comfortable out of the box. And then the insole is fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It features a very smooth kind of liner on the surface, minimal design and branding, and then it's made from a single layer of this black foam. Moving to the base of the boot, if you're familiar with the Umbro brand, you'll recognize this because it's exactly the same sole plate and stud pattern that we've seen on the previous Velocita and really within the Umbro brand for the last 3 or 4 years, which is definitely disappointing, especially considering how expensive these are. It's made from a Pebax material, so you're gonna find the external heel counter is one piece with the sole plate itself. It is internally reinforced, and this is something that I found to be extremely disappointing. For those of you guys that have seen the videos that I've done on a lot of counterfeit football boots, I've mentioned that those are football boots that are not designed to be worn. They're just designed to look like the real thing. And when you bend the sole plate in particular, the way a sole plate on a football boot is pretty much always designed is you want that flexibility through the forefoot, but then you want that rigidity through the heel and midfoot. And on a counterfeit boot, when you bend it, it kind of buckles in the middle. The central structure that's supposed to be structured isn't actually structured. And when I bend these, it buckles right in the middle. That is the weak point on the football boot. And I don't think that it's as bad as a counterfeit product would be, but it's really disappointing to see that from what is a $250 football boot coming from a reputable football boot brand. I'm not sure what the design choice was there. And it's not that this sole plate feels bad, but that's just, it's really lame that there's an actual structure element through the midfoot, but that's where it buckles. And just as an example, if I take a Vapor 14 Elite and I bend it the same way, you can see the forefoot bends and the midfoot structure stays solid. And then as far as the stud pattern is concerned, it's labeled as FG, but I would definitely classify this as more of an HG or hard ground sole plate, because if you look at the length of the studs, they are relatively short, and you have a combination of kind of these triangular bladed studs and some conical ones thrown into the mix. The traction is okay. It's definitely best suited for harder ground or even for use on artificial grass. But in terms of giving you the bite and I guess just general grip, as a lot of the top end flagship speed boots right now, it's definitely a little bit lacking in that department. And then there's the weight, which is probably the strongest aspect of this boot from a performance standpoint. In a size 9.5 US, you can see the Velocita 6 Pro weighs in at 6.8 ounces, the equivalent of 192 grams, which is roughly right around the same weight as something like a Nike Mercurial Vapor 14 Elite, not quite as lightweight as a Puma Ultra, but in general, very light on your feet. So here they are on feet, and while this is totally a personal opinion thing, I happen to think that they look quite good. I'm a big fan of the design, and I also have them paired up with some pretty good looking socks here in Pure Socks Classic. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware that we already do Pure Grip socks as well as Pure Grip Socks Pro, super affordable grip sock, but we wanted to do the same with socks that have no grips, which is what the Classic line is all about. And given that this boot in particular already has the grips on the heel, it's kind of a little bit unnecessary, at least through the heel area, to also wear grip socks. Not to mention that a good quality pair of socks is extremely important in terms of the overall comfort and experience that you're going to have with your boots. Pure Socks Classics are available in either black or white for the time being, and they're available for the extremely affordable price of just $6.99 a pair. If you're interested in trying some out, the website to go to is puregripsocks.com, which will be linked down below in the description. Now, in terms of fit and feel on feet, the boots are relatively comfortable except through the heel area. I just find that there's not enough padding to the heel liner, and you can really feel the hard structure of the internal kind of heel counter that they have on this particular football boot. But again, that's something that's going to vary a lot from person to person depending on the shape of your foot. As far as the upper is concerned, it has a plasticky feel to it. It's definitely not as flexible, or certainly not as sock-like as a lot of other speed boots that are out there right now, but it's kind of the direction that a lot of boots are trending into more of like a raw, firm, or synthetic material. In regards to just general comfort, I don't think that it feels bad at all. It wraps your foot very closely, and in general, I actually like the fit of the boot. It's just that heel area that doesn't feel all that great to me. As far as width is concerned, they have some decent width to them. This is one of those boots that I definitely think is going to fit most people, even if you do have slightly wider feet. So in that regard, that's definitely a good thing. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, I am extremely underwhelmed and relatively unimpressed by the Umbro Velocita 6 Pro. It's a football boot that costs way more than it should. The slippery surface to the upper is something that I don't necessarily understand. I don't think they're as comfortable as they should be. I think they're a little bit lacking in terms of design as well as just functionality. This sole plate thing drives me nuts. There is no other top-end football boot from a reputable football boot brand that does that. The stud pattern is well behind in the speed boot category, although for hard ground, it would definitely be ideal. And it's just one of those football boots where I question to find what makes it special or what makes it better than any other option that you can buy for the same amount of money or less. Anyways, guys, that's it for my review. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them down below in the comment section. If you guys aren't subscribed to the channel already, it would mean a lot if you guys could hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when my next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.